Call to order the President and Board of Trustees. Roll call, please.
Trustee Benucci?
Here.
Trustee Lamb?
Here.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Here.
Trustee Peck?
Here.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Here.
Mayor Collins?
Here. If you could rise for the pledge. Bumper cars. Pledge allegiance.
Presidential comments?
I have just one. There's a proclamation. Northern Illinois Food Bank is a nonprofit organization that engages the community in the commitment to help feed our hungry neighbors. And whereas the Northern Illinois Food Bank provides meals for over 71,500 different people each week throughout a network of food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, youth and senior feeding programs, including over 80 in Will County and specifically Plainfield Interface Food Pantry in Plainfield. And whereas the Northern Illinois Food Bank distributes over 62 million meals to the hungry neighbors in FY 2016. And whereas September is Hunger Action Month, where the Northern Illinois Food Bank and over 200 food banks across the country are hosting awareness campaigns and events to bring attention and take action for the cause of hunger. And whereas the Village of Plainfield, C.W. Avery Family YMCA, Plainfield Area Chamber of Commerce, Plainfield Park District, Plainfield Public Library District, Plainfield School District 202 are hosting a community-wide food drive and collecting donations for the Plainfield Area Interfaith Food Pantry during the month of September. And whereas September 8th, 2016 is National Go Orange Day. Now therefore be resolved that through the power vested in me as Village President, Plainfield, let all who do have and will reside in the Village of Plainfield know that the village joins the Northern Illinois Food Bank in proclaiming September 2016 as Hunger Action Month in Plainfield. Here witness and here to my hand the Great Seal of Plainfield today, 15th of August 2016, and we do have a representative.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
no, if you'd like to say
All
something.
right. Well, thank you so much for this. At Northern Illinois Food Bank, we strive to make sure that none of our neighbors go hungry. And I always say that if you don't know there's a problem, you don't know how to even begin to fix it. And that's what September and Hunger Action Month is all about. Raising awareness that 1 in 7 people in Northern Illinois and 1 in 5 children don't know where the next meal is coming from. So thank you, and I'm really looking forward to this month, this year's Hunger Action Month. I think it's gonna be a success.
Okay, thank you very much. I have nothing further.
Trustees' comments?
A project I'd like to share with the board and give a brief narrative and also thank staff for their help. I had a, like many, impromptu meeting with a elected official from another board from Plainfield Township. And the two of us had walked down the alley just north of Lockport Street behind the buildings, and we both could not help but notice that several of the NICOR gas lines that were going in the buildings seemed outdated and somewhat unprotected from cars that drive up and down the alley. And he had asked if there was something that I could, possibly do about it, and I said, I'd like to find out and see if we can do it without spending any taxpayer dollars. So I did call Administrator Brian Murphy, and he had handed it to Director Goska, and he was able to work with NICOR and get these different gas lines, looks like replaced for free, no cost to the village, and possibly some more barriers as well put in front of those so that cars that go up and down the alleys don't accidentally, hopefully, don't accidentally or decrease the chances of them hitting a gas line. So I just want to thank staff for, being attentive to that and helping out. And I'm not sure if Alan or Ken had any other information to share about the project, but that's what I know about it. And, you know, it's an anomaly. Usually something in government takes several months, and this was, I think, just under 60 days we accomplished this. So, you know, thank you very much.
Welcome. I have to thank Dave Countryman also. He had a big part of it. He was dealing with NICOR for permits for other subdivisions that are going on. And that's where we got our contact. We got lucky. We won't promise another 60 days ever, but it did work out good this time.
Are there any other trustee comments?
You know, have one comment to make in particular. It's there's a community alert. I've read it in a number of newspapers about particular scams. People will call you about IRS scams. Well, this past weekend I received a phone call at my residence, and the person on the line was pretending to be one of my granddaughters. And it's really interesting. She told me that, and it was actually funny because I asked her I called her by her wrong name. I said, Madeline, and what's wrong? And she started answering. And so I thought I was going to have some fun with this. She told me, are you ready? The only reason you can't understand me well is I broke my nose in a car accident. The police are keeping me at a police station. I slept there all night. I only was allowed one phone call, and I made it to you. I said, and she said, I need a lawyer. I said, that's interesting, Madeline. Your father's a lawyer. Did you think of calling him? Anyway, she got upset because, and anyway, what is occurring, and I spoke with a number of people. If you are on Facebook or something, you have granddaughter pictures, grandson, children, and there's that social internet. Well, all you need is one or two facts, and all of a sudden you start developing a case. And what the ultimate thing is, please send money. And we never got that far because the bogus individual hung up on me. Anyway, I called our police chief, Conopec, and I addressed that to him, and he said, I have more to say. And so I'm going to allude to John to fill in a little more of the story.
Ironically, the exact same thing happened to my parents last week as well. Scam over the phone where they said my son was in jail because of a variety of circumstances, and thankfully they didn't usher up the $2,000 that the person at the other end of the line was requesting, imitating that they were a police department. But it did put a scare into them. We get these scams, and we are not unique to this. They occur across the country. We get these type of phone scams on a regular basis throughout the year. They typically do target the elderly, but just last week I also got a phone scam try from purportedly the IRS seeking money as well. So I don't necessarily consider myself elderly right now, but they do target all walks of life, from the young to the old, and they do play on your fears. As Trustee Rasich said, they do try to get information from whether it's social media, regular media, or just information that's out there. But in many instances, and you know, I'll put my parents out there, they kind of fed into it because the person that called said, you know, your grandson, or they said that your grandson's in jail, and they said, oh, Nick, and that happens to be my son's name, and the person didn't know my son's name until my mom put it out there. So then they started playing on that. So we did put a notice out, a press release out this week, and like I said, it's nothing that's it's been an uptick lately. It's just something that occurs throughout the year, and it could be a IRS scam. It could be you've just won a huge prize and you have to upfront certain money. It could be something a relative's been in a crash, a relative's in jail. Anytime that someone asks you for money over the phone, hang up immediately. There is not one legitimate organization in the country that is going to request you to provide money over the phone. If you are still hesitant to do that, then request a return phone number. Hang up at that time after you get the number. Check with your local police department. Well, whether it's Plainfield or wherever you may live, check with your local police department, and they can easily verify whether it's legitimate or a scam. And the last thing is, if it puts the hair on the back of your neck up, if something just doesn't seem right, it's not right. You know, especially with those, you just want a terrific trip, you just have to put up $100. Really? There's absolutely no way that that's a legitimate venture that someone's coming forward with you towards. So if it sounds too good to be true, it is. If it doesn't sound right, it's not. And the best thing is if you still have questions, take a return phone number. I would almost guarantee you they're not going to give you a return phone number. But in the fact they do, contact the police department and they can check into it and verify or quell whatever it is that they're calling about. Irregardless, at the end of the phone call, contact the local police department again, whether it's us or some other jurisdiction. Just let them know that it happened. I will tell you many of these instances are originating from overseas. They're not originating in the United States. They're from countries overseas, countries around the world where these are originating from. So we typically will forward these on to our federal partners, FBI and so forth, and I can tell you they have databases of these type of activities going on. But anytime you have a question, I know I've talked too long, but final thing I'll say is anytime you have a question, never hesitate to contact your local police agency, and they can help you out with any of those type of calls.
Are there any other trustee comments?
Just one on the same subject, actually. A lot of phones can give you caller ID. When somebody's calling, you can find out. If you don't recognize it, don't answer. It saves you a lot of trouble. And sometimes you miss a call, but if somebody really wants to get you, leave a message. If they don't leave a message, you don't want to talk to them anyway. So,
I think the one that I heard was the IRS, and they seem to be very polished because not only do they leave a return number for you to call them, but then you talk to them, and they have all the answers. I had one of the residents call me expressing concern, or he thought it was real, and I said, don't worry about it. They told him that if he didn't mail the check, that the police were on their way to arrest him.
Oh.
And he said, I want to talk to your supervisor. They got the guy who was supposedly the supervisor, and they had some of his data, so they knew his address, they knew his name. They said, you filed your tax return wrong. And he's like, well, what? And they're like, I can't give out any more information. You're going to have to send us a check. And I mean, they were very, very polished. I mean, they've done this probably for years now, and they know what to say to make it work. So to your point, I think if they're asking for money over the phone, hang up.
Absolutely. And like I said, most of that information they can get through anything on the internet, real estate sales, regular business transactions on the internet. It's unbelievable the amount of information they can get on someone on the internet.
I just had one question probably for Alan. I think last month, and I missed the meeting, there was a rejection of some bids along 248th. I was just wondering if there has been any progress on that rebid. I think that was going to happen.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the project's currently, it's going to be out for bid shortly, and it is, we do have the ability to have that completed before the end of the year. So we hope to have that back before the board here at the next meeting next month for action on that item.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment on a couple things. First of all, as a member of the board of the Interfaith Food Pantry, there's so many volunteers that run around and gather all this food from all the areas that people drop it off, and it's so needed. You don't realize in this community how many people are truly in need, and in this entire Plainfield Township, Wheatland Township area, it's substantial. So that's a big thing to bring awareness to the amount of really big need we have, and a special thanks to Plainfield Township as well, as they provide the initial space for this pantry. And our very own Butch Lafito from Pima is one of the most ardent volunteers running all over for that. So thank you to all of them. And what Trustee Peck brought up was an excellent point. Trustee Chuck Willard from the township, who is now the clerk, brought forward at a meeting about the gas, possible gas issues with behind the buildings, the actual meters and that. And that's the value of emergency manager, because he's a retired firefighter, but he is always, once you're an emergency manager, you're a lifelong emergency manager. So that was really great that he brought that forward. And last but not least, school is starting on Wednesday, so be prepared for a lot of kids, a lot of buses. Make time, make extra time, because there's going to be a lot of chaos as there is the first few days of school, because suddenly everybody's back on the road for that. So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the Northern Illinois Food Bank for all your hard work. You guys do God's work, you do. And for some food for thought, later on in our February say in the spring or in the fall, or whenever the mayor decides or the village manager decides is the best time financially to do that. So it's easier for us as board members to account for how many vehicles there are because it's all within 2 meetings rather than spread out throughout the year. Just some food for thought.
Are there any other comments?
You know, one last comment. This past Saturday morning, I attended a dedication at the new Greg Bott Community Park, and it was in the past Renwick Park. And Greg Bott, and it was a very nice article in the Joliet Herald News recently, Park District to rename park after Bott. And there's one quotation by the president of the Plainfield Board, which is really truthful, and it describes Greg in his service. He oversaw the district through tremendous growth. He wanted to develop and maintain open natural areas, so it wasn't just wall-to-wall housing. And I think that's hand in hand with how when we were doing work with Park District, schools, et cetera, and this village board, we all felt the same way. It wasn't just wall-to-wall houses. And we have beautiful green areas, for example, right outside of our windows in the park, which I think is the jewel of the village of Plainfield, Settlers Park. And we also have just the Park District doing its marvelous work. And it was a true honor for the Park District Board and et cetera administration to rename that park the Gregory P. Bott Community Park. It was a wonderful honor for him. And as I say, congratulations, Greg. You did a great job. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? If not, this will be the time for public comments. If there are no public comments, then we'll proceed with the business meeting. We're seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda to include minutes of the board meeting held on August 1st, bills paid and bills payable reports for August 15th, cash and investments, revenue and expenditure reports for July.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve items A through C under the consent agenda. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 2016 Homecoming Parade. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve the 2016 Homecoming Parade and associated road closures to be held on October 1st.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
Just one question. The report suggests that we spent an extra $3,000 or $4,000 last year. What was the reason for that?
Just salary increases from one year to the next.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not. The motion was made and seconded to approve the 2016 Homecoming Parade and associated road closures. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Administrator's report?
The only update I have is that the Village Hall and other buildings, the phone system is down. So if residents tried to call today, they were unable to connect to village offices. 911 is working, so if there's any urgency that you need, just dial 911, you'll be fine. We're hopeful that our vendor is going to correct the situation very soon, but if there's any reason to get access to any of staff, just email us at info@goplainfield.com. And we are updating social media as well, so you can take a look on social media, and we'll keep you posted on when the phone system's back up in order. And that's all I had.
Management Services report.
No report.
Engineers report.
No report.
Planning Department report. Building Department report.
We're ahead of last year by a fair number. Do we expect to end up the full year with more than housing starts than last year? Or hard to...
If it continues the way it is right now, we've got quite a few in this month already. We should break last year's record.
Okay, thank you.
Public Works report.
I just have a few items this evening. With all the news that's out there today, I thought it'd be refreshing to actually bring some good news to the village out here too as well, because there are some great things that are going on. And 127th Street is one of those projects that has really turned out well so far, and we're very proud of, and we're proud as to the way that it's progressed. If you recall back a couple of years ago, we had some challenges with property acquisition in that area, mainly on the north side. Randy Jessen, who's behind me, Jonathan Pro, worked through those issues to help bring this project along. We also made application with the support of the mayor and the board for a $2 million federal grant, which was approved approximately a year and a half ago as well. So those are two key issues with this project to help move it forward. This project is part of the Village's Strategic and Transportation Plan. In March of 2015, which actually wasn't that long ago, the board directed Baxter and Woodman to start the design. Within 2 weeks, we met with IDOT and with the Federal Highway Administration to talk about the project up in Schaumburg, and we said that we'd like to get this out to bid within a year. And they kind of shook their heads and said, this is a 3-year process. You understand that, don't you? And we said, we're pretty confident that we can get it done in a year. So they put us to task, and we actually, through that process, the design moved forward. Over half the design was completed by November. We had a public meeting within this building, received overwhelming public support for this project. In early 2016, the design was completed for the entire project. In May, it received the approval from IDOT, the Federal Highway Administration, and all of the environmental groups too as well. Shortly thereafter, it went out for bid. So this is a record-setting pace. As Ken had mentioned about the gas meters, I can't guarantee that every project will move this quickly, but I just briefly wanted to recognize some of the individuals that have been key to this project. It's a very good bidding climate. We were pleased to see that the low bidder provided a bid of $2.673 million. The project was estimated approximately 30% higher than that. Since the $2 million is applied to the entire project, the remaining was the village's share. But instead of being over $1 million is what we had estimated and talked about as part of this project, it's really $673,000 is the village's share. So we're very pleased with that, pleased with the progress and the number of bidders that we received. The board doesn't have to take any action tonight. This is actually the IDOT will make the award. They will process the payments, but we will be in control as the village. We will be in control of the inspections, the quality of work, and just the oversight of the project as a whole. And IDOT will be covering or will be handling the payments to the contractor and organizing that too as well. So this project should start. It should be awarded within the next 30 days or so. Should start soon, and it'll be done by the end of 2017, so within a year. So we're really pleased with that with this project. It will add curb and gutter to those deep ditches that are out there, which was a concern of the residents. New pathway and sidewalk, street lighting, improvements to the box culvert structure out there that will allow safe pedestrian crossing and access. And again, it includes all the things that are consistent with our transportation plan and strategic plan. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, but again, we couldn't be more pleased with the outcome from the bid results we have on this project.
Yes, I would just like to say outstanding job to you and all your guys. Thank you very much. Obviously, you drive down that street and it's obvious that there's a safety issue with the drop-off. So I think it's great news that that's going to be resolved for the commuters and the people that live in that area. So thank you. I just had one question, and I don't know if you have the answer. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you know the big difference in bids is obviously a great savings for the village. But do you have any indication or knowledge as to where that savings or the difference came in from what the original estimate versus what the bid actually ended up?
Once the bid is officially awarded by IDOT, then we'll get the bid tabulations and get a chance to look at that. We were a little concerned about the removal of the soils and the replacement with structural material to support the roadway. We thought that there'd be a higher cost for that. So I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing that's where the savings is going to be at. But we'll receive the bid tabulations and provide those to the board as well as the public when the award is completed. Thank you. And the next two items are actually related to 127th Street. The village currently has, and you see that this is not so much that it's unique, but once in a while we do have some utility conflicts that we have to deal with. The large box culvert structure which conveys the creek water in that area is going to be significantly wider than it was originally, and there's a 4-inch gas main that currently needs to be relocated. The village does have a franchise agreement with Nicor Gas, and in essence what the franchise agreement allows is it allows for the village, it allows for Nicor to utilize our public utility areas and our rights-of-way to extend their utilities and maintain their utilities. In exchange, the village receives gas as far as heating costs for this building, the Public Works building, and the police station at no cost. So there is a trade-off there that the heat for the buildings is actually provided for the benefit of the community, for our public buildings, at no cost in exchange for this franchise agreement. The only other thing within the franchise agreement is that if a utility has established an easement specifically for that utility and it has to be relocated, then it is at the cost of the village. And it's clearly stated within the agreement, and that unfortunately we can't look into the crystal ball. This easement agreement was reached with the property owner in 1978. At that time, the village was significantly smaller, and this was a lot further away, but it's well outside of the right-of-way that the township had, so it's well within the gas company's right to request a reimbursement for relocation. So that's in essence it. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the relocation of the gas. We did review the price per foot costs, and we find them to be fair. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Obviously, we need to do that. The only question I have is it a budgeted expense, or is this something that we're now paying, like emergency things we now suddenly discover we have to cover it?
It was budgeted because we did anticipate that, noticing on the going descriptions, noticing that easement, that it would be our responsibility to pay for the relocation.
Great, thank you.
Are there any comments or questions? Not, we're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve an agreement with Nicor Gas for the gas main relocation along 127th Street and to authorize payment for this work at a cost not to exceed $67,227.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Next item that I have is actually related to 127th Street as well. As part of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 work for the design, there were some additional requests by IDOT for review of specific things. There was a stop sign warrant analysis that was needed that wasn't anticipated before the contract was signed with Baxter and Woodman, and some other things. So, IDOT did their due diligence and had us jump through all the hoops. We did meet with them almost on a monthly basis to talk about this project, and so there was a great deal of effort that was expended related to that. And the specifics are within the document, and Derek is here to answer any questions that you may have related to that. But staff has reviewed it, and we understand the extra work that it had taken to answer all of IDOT's questions in a very timely basis. And there's a slight additional cost of $20,457.60 related to that. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, or Mr. Wold can answer questions as well.
If there are no comments or questions, we're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a contract supplement number 1 with Baxter and Woodman for the 127th Street reconstruction project in the amount of $20,457.60.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
The last item that I have, and actually there's some more good news related to this too as well. We've got Jonathan, if you want to forward that one more. As the board is well aware, and the board did approve a intergovernmental agreement with the school district to share the cost to install new streetlights along Fort Beggs Drive between Route 59 and James Street. That work was also bid and awarded to the low bidder, Van Mack. They've recently completed all the installation of the streetlights, the wires, and the control box too as well. We are planning a test operation tomorrow, so if all goes well, the lights will be operational tomorrow night, and our goal was to get it done before the kids start school, and I think we're going to achieve that. We're going to do our best to achieve that. So that project has really moved along very well. Christopher Burke was the engineering firm that developed the design, and also they were overseeing the construction. Van Mack was the company that completed the construction. What you have tonight for consideration is related to the project in a way. It is an engineering proposal from Christopher Burke to design a street lighting system along James Street from Lockport Street, so from the northern end there of James, Lockport Street, extend all the way down to Commercial, and the village would have the option of selecting the older traditional decorative street lighting as part of the design, or the longer black mast arms that you see along Fort Beggs out there for that section. And then also design a section of street lighting from Commercial all the way to James Street, and then have that extend even further south along River Road past the new pedestrian bridge that's recently been installed, which is within the village's jurisdiction. And that's what's included in the engineering contract here. I can tell you this, we're also working with the Highway Commissioner for Plainfield Township and working on a similar intergovernmental agreement, or they can have a separate engineering agreement to complete the work for the continuation of the street lighting all the way to Renwick Road. And then the way we envision it is would be bid as one document, and then we would have an intergovernmental agreement with the township where they would pay their proportionate share. So we would bring all those things back. We will request of the school district an intergovernmental agreement to share for cost sharing on the property that fronts the school. Well, so that's the intent. This is the mechanism to get this started for the next construction season. So I'll be happy to answer any questions related to the contract or any of those projects.
You don't have a question for you, Alan, but I have just a particular comment, not only for, just the Plainfield School District 202 and the Village of Plainfield. It's a perfect illustration of intergovernmental cooperation. I have grandchildren that attend that high school, and oftentimes I think of the student parking lots to the south, the athletic fields to the south, how dark it used to be, and people crossing the streets. I can't even believe that no one actually did not get run over in the last few years. Literally thousands of children cross that street, Fort Beggs, and with it being better lighted, it's really going to be a tremendous safety feature. And like I say, I think we have to give ourselves an awful lot of credit, the two districts, the two boards, for cooperating and getting a good project completed for the Village of Plainfield and for its citizens and anyone who attends a function at that high school. And thank you for your good work.
With everything Trustee Rassich just said, no need to repeat it. It was excellent. In addition, though, I did want to ask Alan. You'd mentioned that we were looking at James Street from the very north end, then all the way south. Correct? Again, I totally agree with the area by the high school, but I guess have we got any feedback from the residents in regards to actually moving forward with those street lights there, for or against, or they don't care, or where are we at with that?
Yeah, we've had some requests in the past. They've been hit or miss. Even with this other project, we've had a request for street lighting on another street, which we're looking at, which is within the region too as well. So, but there haven't been any voices of opposition. I think since you have the football field there and you have the lights and the noise, and I can hear the football noise from my house. I actually like it. It's one of those things. So I don't think that the street lighting will be an issue in that area.
They're already pretty close to high school, like you said, so they're already, like you said, used to it. All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We have any idea what the ultimate cost or the estimate would be once we pass the phase of the engineering to actually construct all those?
We'll go through that first phase of the engineering, and then we'll be happy to bring the cost estimates back to the board for discussion, because I know that that will be a factor, especially in that section. Do we want to follow the traditional, older style decorative streetlights downtown within that one block area or not? Because there will be a cost difference, but we'll bring that back to the board in the future. Yes.
Just had one or two little questions. Number one, I don't know if you can even answer it. You know, that pedestrian bridge we did put in, is there any idea of when that's going to actually open? I mean, they're using it now with regularity, but is there?
There are some, it's kind of some neat technology, and this is a Park District's project, but we are the partner along with the Park District. There are some LED lit crossing signs, special signs. They're newer style. You can't miss them, that's for sure. Solar powered, and that they have a push button detection where you can activate it when you want to cross the road, and they have a motion detection, and they have both. So what the Park District is trying to acquire are the lights that will sense the motion on the trail and activate the lights even if someone doesn't push the button. So if, for instance, someone is riding a bicycle, it will sense that before they come to the intersection, activate the lights and warn people that there's someone approaching the crossing. So
Sounds very good.
as soon as they're in, the
That's pretty
bridge will be
cool.
open.
And I have one other question. Before we get the comment, is this on the lighting along Fort Beggs, are they going to go back and clean up around the bases of all the lights and plant some grass and such? Because you know there's people are going to come back on us if we don't, so.
There's quite a bit of restoration, although it's, just as the mayor had stated, it's right where the light pole bases are at, but
Okay.
that will be completed and they'll be completely restored.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Just one quick comment. It's impressive detail that you always have. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see. And so thank you for all that background work, because it's impressive.
No problem. Thank you, Trustee Lamb. Thank you.
Yeah, I move that we authorize professional service agreement with Christopher Burke Engineering for the design of the James Street River Road street lighting system at a cost not to exceed $21,200.
A motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Police Chief's report.
Thank you. The first item I have on the agenda is seeking the board's consideration to adopt an ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property. That personal property are two vehicles, one that was utilized by Pima. It was actually a hand-me-down prior from the police department, and then a police department vehicle that was being utilized by our community service officers. The 2009 Chevy Impala is a result of a crash that occurred several months ago, and the 2006 Chevy Tahoe is just maintenance and the vehicle getting so old that it's not physically feasible to fix it anymore. So I would be seeking board's consideration, and also we would be posting this, if approved by the board, we'd be posting this as we have in the past as far as notifying folks that these vehicles are going to auction. So I would be seeking board's consideration of a motion authorizing the sale of this personal property.
We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3275, authorizing the sale of personal property.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Now to proceed with the roll. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. The second item I have is seeking board's consideration to authorize the purchase of a new 2017 Ford Escape from Rod Baker Ford, including the emergency equipment from Ray O'Haron and the installation and decals from our current vendors for the amount of $22,807.50. In the previous motion, the vehicle, the 2006 Chevy Tahoe that was used by community service officers, again is reached the end of life as far as financially keeping it up and running. So we would look to replace that vehicle with this 2017 Ford Escape. We did get quotes from 3 different agencies for the vehicle and emergency equipment, And Rod Baker, which is a local vendor, did come in underpriced, the lowest price on those. Also, this vehicle was budgeted, and the overall cost for this vehicle and the equipment and the installation comes in well under what was budgeted for this vehicle. So I would be seeking board's consideration to authorize the purchase of the new 2017 Ford Escape from Rod Baker and the emergency equipment from Ray O'Haron, and then the installation and decals in the amount of $22,807.50.
2017 Ford Escape in the amount of $22,807.50 in addition to the equipment from Ray O'Haron.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassage? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. And the last item I have is the monthly activity report for July of this year for our Plainfield EMA. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Attorney's report.
No report this evening, thank you.
Reminders.
August 16th is our planning commission at 7. August 22nd will be the committee of a whole meeting, and that is also my mother's 92nd birthday. And September 19th will be our next village board meeting.
Seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.